To use your vernacular, here's the guts of it. Ratepayers are going to have to pay more than under the old policy because your government failed to sell water reforms to the public. Is that fair?
They will be paying more compared to four entities. They'll be paying significantly less compared to the status quo.
So under the Three Waters proposal, the bill to ratepayers was said to be cut by around 7,000. Now that's down to 2,700 to 5,400 per year. People are paying more because you lost control of the narrative, right?
That's the average. There's still some districts in the country that are set to save 90%. My family's from McAnulty, the Tararua district. They have 12,000 people. They need to find $600 million. They simply cannot do it. Under these reforms, they'll be saving 84%. Some districts are 90%, others are down to 50%, but nevertheless, when we look at what the two options are now, because we actually have an alternative now, what the government is doing and what the National Party are proposing, the savings are significant under ours and almost non-existent under theirs.
The regulatory impact statement for Three Waters says that entities need a population of at least 600 to 800,000 to see any real efficiency gains. What's the average population served by your 10 entities? Significantly
less than that. So we're not pretending that this is the best policy solution, but what we are saying is that in terms of finding a mechanism by which ratepayers will still save significantly more than the status quo and local communities each get a voice, which we were told when we talked about this policy that that was the most important thing alongside cost savings. That's why I believe 10 entities is that right balance.
You've delayed the creation of the 10 entities by 2 years. You've scrapped the second round of the compensation for the councils, the $1.5 billion. You've also said we can't kick the can down the road, but that's what you've been doing for 5 years and that's what you're doing again. Why?
Any reform that involves local government has an impact on their planning. Delaying it out 2 years is what many in the sector asked for, because if we didn't, we might not get things in place in time within the 2024 deadline.
There's still dissent from local councils though. Are you failing to bring along local government?
I don't think we would have ever got everyone. There's some mayors that believe that local control should be absolutely guaranteed. So there's a fundamental disagreement there. So we were never going to get them across the line on the need for an entity. And I didn't expect to get them all. But what I did expect is to find a compromise that addresses their concerns about local voice, but also significantly saves ratepayers money in the long term.
Do you still envisage there being 10 entities in 30 years' time?
No, but it won't be the government that makes that decision. We've deliberately set it up so that if they can demonstrate 75% of each entity support a merger, then it just happens. And I think over time, when things settle, when they start looking at projected costs and they start looking at the possibility of joining with their neighbour to bring costs down even further, I think that'll happen.
Co-governance. The Prime Minister said this is not co-governance and it wasn't co-governance. That's not true, is it?
Well, it's technically not, because it's not a governance model, but I do accept that the term co-governance has been used by ministers in defence of this policy. I think that was a mistake.
You're talking about Nanaia Mahuta there?
No, I'm just going to talk about the government in general has used that term, and it was ill-defined in my view, because what we're proposing here isn't all that dissimilar to what's common in the local government sector already. And that's why I think when I've done the tour of local government, local councils and spoken to councillors and all that sort of stuff, co-governance doesn't come up very often at all, hardly ever at all, because they're used to it. But what it did do is by using co-governance, it allowed other people to say that there's, and you've heard it yourself, they're handing assets over to Māori, Māori are taking over, and there was no basis for those.
Why try and fudge your way out of the co-governance argument, and why not lean into it, explain to people why Māori need a seat at the table when it comes to water? Look,
there's a treaty obligation here that's been tested and proven in the courts, and that it says that Māori have a special interest in water as tangata whenua. I'm not shying away from that. That also the rating agencies have told us that in order to ensure balance sheet separation, particularly with these smaller entities that aren't as viable as four, but are still viable, in order to ensure balance sheet separation, having other people alongside local government in those RRGs were going to help us achieve that. If it's going to be someone else, it should be mana whenua.
Where was that explanation for the last 5 years, with all due respect?
I think it's clear to everyone that this whole thing wasn't explained well. The rationale behind this is to save ratepayers money. If we don't do it, we're going to be facing bills that they can't afford.
But As you said, there is a lot of fear around co-governance, and fundamentally a lot of the vocal opposition, probably driven by that fear, has been about the co-governance element of Three Waters. That's still retained in the policy. Are you confident that you can actually turn the public's mind on this?
I am, because I think they have a clear choice this election. They've got one option that we can prove will save them money, and another one where the finances haven't been provided by the National Party. Their one doesn't have mana whenua representation, our one does. At the end of the day, what do New Zealanders care about at the moment? It's bills that they can afford.
Yeah, you've already done a working group and now you've reset the policy. Is this it?
Yep, that's it. This will be passed by the election.
Done?
Yep.
Too little, too late?
I don't think so. If it's going to save ratepayers money, then it has to be done. I don't think that this is, at the end of the day, going to be an election-defining issue, because I think most New Zealanders will see, we've listened, we've taken it on board, we haven't been arrogant and stuck to our guns and tried to get policy purity here. We've tried to find a compromise, and I think in something contentious, that's what they expect of their government.
Do you think you'll regret saying we've nailed it?
I think we have nailed it. I think we've found the balance. Not pretending it's universally popular, but I think we've got it right.